Welcome back to Winners and Losers, your post-race edition for the Monaco Grand Prix. If you want to see a race review, we did that yesterday. I really enjoyed the race and we had a mixed response in the comments. Some people, like me, thought it was great, thought it was a real nice mix-up for the season. Other people, not so sure. Other people, a little bit on the fence. So it was a nice mix, actually, and I did enjoy talking to you guys in the comments. But in today's video, this is the weekly video where we take 6 drivers, 3 winners, 3 losers, and have a little discussion on how their weekends went. This time out, we're changing the format up a little bit, and we're not going to be talking about the Fantasy League. That's going to be in a different video altogether. Let's jump into it. So our first winner, probably not too surprisingly, is Sebastian Vettel. An awful start to the weekend. Ferrari came into this weekend not expecting anything spectacular. After their best result of the season were 2 third places already for Sebastian Vettel and 1 for Charles Leclerc, the team still, after pre-season testing, are looking for a victory, which again just seems so bizarre that this man, Sebastian Vettel's last win was Spa, Belgium, last season, the first race back from the summer break. Since then, no wins at all. His last pole position was Germany of last season before the summer break. He's been on an awful run of form, and that really hit one of its low points at the beginning of this weekend. Practice was struggling quite a bit, actually, behind his teammate once again. Practice 3, really early on in practice 3, into the barriers. The worst place to do it, Monaco of all places. And it looked like, well, for a little while, that Vettel wasn't going to be able to make qualifying at all, just like Max Verstappen did last season. He was able to make qualifying, a really difficult starting qualifying, that's to be said for sure, almost out in Q1, was just, with seconds to go, able to get through, able to post a fastest lap as it was at the time, but just sneak through into Q2 and eventually Q3, lined up 4th on the grid. Difficult race for Sebastian Vettel as well. After a difficult practice, didn't get much running in, difficult qualifying, probably did the best job he could have done with such limited running. In the race, didn't really get anywhere. Was fortunate of Valteri Bottas' puncher, fortunate of Max Verstappen and the issues he had, ended up with us somehow, after an almost very disappointing weekend, comes away with his best result of the season, Ferrari's best result of the season, a 2nd place, a huge win for Vettel, and maybe this is the sort of push he needs now to push him on over the next few races. Our second winner is Dani Ricciardo, and to be honest, this more goes to the whole Toro Rosso team. A track traditionally they've not gone too well at Monaco, and Ricciardo himself, his best ever result for Toro Rosso was a 9th place finish. He turned that all around this weekend. His teammate Alex Albon right behind him, so Ricciardo was 7th, Albon was 8th. Brilliant for those two. Started so well, in fact. Qualifying went well, both of them getting into Q3, the first time in a very long time, the 2 Toro Rosso boys getting into Q3. It's the first time we've seen 4 Honda cars in the top 10, which was awesome to see, a real surprise actually. But a circuit like Monaco, if it's going to happen anywhere, most likely it would be Monaco, a circuit where straight line speed is not paramount. But both drivers, a bit of a different strategy, did benefit by not stopping under the safety car early on. Both Ricciardo, Albon and Grosjean, in actual fact, stayed out super long. Carlos Sainz also went for a similar strategy. His strategy actually prevailed overall, and I could have gone with Sainz for this particular video, but I thought, you know what, Toro Rosso as a team just surprised everyone this weekend, and we've all been banging on about how in this season in particular the midfield is so tight, mistakes cannot be afforded whatsoever. So to get 2 points, or double points finish in Monaco, awesome job. Ricciardo proving why he should be back in Formula 1, proving why he should be leading a team. And our final winner for this week for Monaco Grand Prix, our biggest winner, I mean, there's not really any sort of surprise. It goes to Lewis Hamilton. Now, again, this show, I don't know why I'm calling it a show, this video series isn't about who particularly won the race, because that's very straightforward. Lewis Hamilton was a winner, but it's more to do with form, like a form guide almost, and what drivers are needing to be doing to beat their drivers around them in the championship. And Hamilton this weekend, I don't think was the quicker guy. In qualifying, I think Valtteri Bottas actually had the edge, and somehow, after a scruffy lap in Q3, Bottas messed it up completely, and Hamilton got the pole position, which Bottas was a little bit miffed about. But you know what? He thought to himself, with a bit of strategy, just as long as I stay in P2, it's going to be straightforward. Well, didn't quite pan out like that for Valtteri Bottas. Obviously got caught up with that Max Verstappen incident in the pit lane, which initially didn't seem like too much damage. However, a puncher had to come in, and although Verstappen got a penalty, Bottas consequently lost out to Sebastian Vettel, meaning Lewis Hamilton gets a big chunk of points, 10 points now over his teammate in this particular race, now leads the championship by 17 points, but this really should have been a weekend where Bottas was potentially going to be victorious. Hamilton as well on the wrong strategy. I mean, the benefit of hindsight is brilliant, but Verstappen hounded him down all race, drove a superb drive to stay in the lead, but again, another mistake. Well, the first mistake from Mercedes, that could have cost him in this race. It didn't. It all just seemed to work for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, so he is our biggest winner. Moving over to our losers now, the not so nice side of things, and we're going to start off with, again, another obvious one, Max Verstappen. One of my, I want to say, favourites for the victory this weekend. I thought Red Bull should go well in Monaco, which they did. Verstappen himself, if he hadn't made that pit lane error, both Mercedes would have been on the medium compound, and maybe that could have been his almost key to a victory. Things didn't quite pan out like that, and Max, who his best result of the season is a couple of third place finishes, was third place in the standings. However, Vettel has regained that after Vettel's second place in Monaco. Verstappen really outperforming that car at the moment, and it doesn't even feel like the team, Red Bull, have made a transition from Renault engines to Honda engines. You saw how McLaren just fell apart when they changed engine manufacturer. Red Bull, that has not been the case whatsoever. Awesome transition, whatever you want to call it, for the team. They have been all guns blazing. Okay, they haven't quite looked like they could win a race just yet, and by this time last season they had won 2. However, they've been really strong. And Verstappen, once again this weekend, seemed the more likely driver in the entire field to beat the Mercedes than anyone else. And whilst I think it was an awesome drive from Verstappen, a real coming-of-age and mature drive, that penalty really cost him. And what could have been a victory, could have been a second place, ended as a P4, only 1 point more than his teammate. Moving back into the midfield now, another awesome scrap in the midfield. But Kevin Magnussen really paid the price in this race. So did Daniel Ricciardo, and it was almost a toss-up between those two who I was going to give this loser position to. But I've gone with Magnussen, which, you know what, I really did heap so much praise on Kevin on Saturday after Gasly's penalty, after an awesome job, awesome lap, started P5, and what should have been an incredible haul of points for the team. A slight strategic error in pitting under the safety car, trying to cover off what Daniel Ricciardo did, so it was almost a reactionary mistake, if you will. Cost them dearly. Stuck behind the Lando Norris train and the Kimi Raikkonen train, couldn't get through the field, ended up all the way down in 14th. Now, Magnussen himself is 8th in the championship, which is fine. You know, that's a good job. But this weekend, he could have really cemented himself as best of the rest. And in a car which wasn't performing too great at the beginning of the season, seems to have found a bit of form now. His teammate Romain Grosjean scored in this race, almost had the opposite race to Magnussen, and Grosjean I almost put in the winners after his difficult Saturday being blocked in qualifying. Ended up being a blessing in disguise, and all of those guys at the lower end of the top 10 and just outside the top 10 really benefited from staying out long, going for that alternate strategy, the overcut which we spoke about in our race preview, that works so well. Magnussen, a consequence of strategy, again, he'll be really disappointed with that one. And our final loser, the biggest loser, again, not a surprise this week, it is Charles Leclerc. I swear down, he's been in the loser section every single time we do this series. He's the man who holds the most biggest losers of any weekend, but this one, partially the team's fault, partially his own fault. 50% coming from the Saturday. You know, that was his team. Big mistake from Ferrari. Big mistake. Out in Q1, that should not be happening at any point in the season, yet alone when they're in this dip of form, when Mercedes are just pinch perfect, which again, they weren't quite this weekend, Mercedes, but still picking up those points. Ferrari could have been there. Leclerc, quickest in final practice, looked like potentially could be an outsider for pole position. However, I don't think the Ferrari car was actually up to that this weekend. However, started at the back, then the blame goes over to Leclerc. Again, not fully his fault, and he made it blatantly clear that the team had put him in such a difficult position. He was going to have to risk damaging the car to salvage anything. Started off the race really good, made a few clinical overtakes. The move on Norris was awesome, and even I've got to admit the move on Grosjean was really calculated. Spent a couple of laps just trying to work out Grosjean's line, made it stick, awesome. Didn't do the same with Hülkenberg, just went for it. Contact with the wall in actual fact, which causes right rear tyre to delaminate, explode all over the track. What a mess. Ended up destroying the floor of the car. Ended up, consequently, the damage of that making him retire from the race. In a race, his home Grand Prix was looking so well early on in the weekend. Comes away with no points. Now a sizable margin behind his teammate. And, I mean, he's not going to win the championship. Already, you can say that for sure. And we went into this year expecting the Mercedes and the Ferrari pair to be up there. But already, it's looking like Mercedes have got this one, which I don't have a major issue with. They have been inch perfect this season and fully deserve it. And I think we're going to have a great championship fight between Hamilton and Bottas. But it's just such a shame that Ferrari have got it wrong once again. Let me know in the comments below who are your winners, who was your losers from the Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.